Hey Ayurveda Everyday, it's Talia, and I am coming to you live today to talk to you about Ayurveda for Beginners and where to start. So, one of the things that I do in this Facebook group, Ayurveda Everyday with Talia, is I ask you a lot of questions about what you most want to learn, and I actually keep a running list of every request that I receive. So this was an actual request from actually a few of you in our group, and that's why I'm doing this live today. Hey, Amy, here we are, me and you. I'm so excited. I wish I could see your face more clearly. So I decided that to share with you about Ayurveda for beginners and where I think you should start is I'm just going to share with you a little bit about my own story and how I got started with Ayurveda, because like you, at one point I had never heard of it, and I did not know anything about it, and I didn't know what it could do for me, and it ended up transforming my entire life. And I know a lot of people say stuff like that, and they're saying it to, I don't know, to sound what's that word? Grandiose or something like that. But I'm literally telling you the truth. It literally changed my whole life. And this is what happened is I was in my late 20s and I desperately wanted to figure out my life calling. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was pretty depressed. I was a little bit overweight. I had been traveling. I'd gone to Israel and Europe, and I brought my bicycle, but I came home early. Anyway, there was a lot going on. And when I came back from that trip, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no vision. I have no goals. I'm just totally lost. And anyway, long story short is I became a yoga teacher. And when I was and that was huge. Like, it was like, oh my gosh, I feel like this just feels so right. It was so amazing. And this was in 2001. So it's before becoming a yoga teacher was as common as it is now. It was not common at all at the time. Or less common, I guess. And in the middle of that training, I broke out in psoriasis all over my body. Now, psoriasis is a really intense autoimmune skin disorder. It's basically like the skin, it doesn't slough off. It keeps duplicating and growing on top of itself. So it creates these really itchy, thick, scaly patches that can be very dry, but they can also be very wet and kind of oozing. And if they're itchy, then you're likely to bleed, and then you're in a lot of pain. So it was very shocking to have it happen. And I had had some psoriasis patches earlier in my life, but nothing like what I experienced when I went to become a yoga teacher at this training. And I was doing yoga and meditating all day. I was very relaxed. I was happy. I was so happy. So anyway, that's what happened. And then they taught us Ayurveda as part of our teacher training, just kind of like introduced it. We took a little written test, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm Pitta Kapha. I don't know. I think that's what's coming up. And I stood up with all the Pitta Kaphas in the class and was like, this doesn't feel right, but I don't know. And then when I left and was looking for a healer for the psoriasis, it was everywhere. It was even on my face. It was really bad. I found this Ayurvedic booth at a festival and was just like, what is that? It smells so good. I was literally like a moth to the flame in terms of curiosity and being drawn to it, and just like, what is this? And I was convinced I had candida at that point. I showed the woman at the booth, I showed her my tongue. I was like, what can you do to help me? She's like, okay, calm down. First of all, calm down. Second, you don't have candida. Third, book an appointment with me. I want to read your pulse. I want to get to know who you are and find out, where is this coming from? Where is this disorder, this autoimmune disorder coming from? And she was 3 hours away from where I lived, but I was like, yes, I'm doing this. So I made an appointment. I went, she read my pulse, and she, I had taken that written test, and she was able to explain to me why in the written test I wasn't getting it quite right of what my dosha really is. And then when she told me what my dosha is and she explained to me what that means, and what by dosha, I mean my core constitution, how hot, cold, light, dry, wet, or heavy I tend to run, it was literally like, I remember the moment as like sitting in, when you're sitting in this outside and a ray of sunshine kind of comes onto you like a pillar of light. That is how I remember that moment. It actually brings tears to my eyes because it was I felt so seen and so profoundly seen by this woman who is Deanna Batdorf, my teacher. She's still my teacher. She's still my practitioner. She's one of my she's my sister, basically, like we call each other sisters because we're just so close after all these years. And she just is magnificent. So in that session, that very first session, she was like, okay, first thing that you need to know is what's your dosha. And I do think that, if you're trying to kind of DIY it with Ayurveda, I think that's great for a period of time because there is so much to learn and understand and kind of orient yourself to, especially with the different doshas, the elements that comprise the doshas, understanding what the qualities of every dosha is and what it means to you. I'll say more about that in a minute. But that was the first step, is what's my dosha? Because otherwise I'm not really applying Ayurveda especially specifically to me. I'm just kind of generally learning about the science, and I might be improving my diet because Ayurveda is so focused on your digestion, the health and wellness of your immunity, which is also your lymph. Sorry, I just got a message that distracted me. Hi, Courtney. My sister's here. So, we can practice Ayurveda without knowing our dosha, for sure, and just get digestion, get immunity, like really amp it up and feel better. But if you're like me and you're dealing with a symptom that either has greatly impacted your life or occasionally impacts your life in a big way or gets you down or has you not feeling well, I think that really approaching it from knowing what your dosha is huge and powerful. And by the way, my Nourish Your Body with Ayurveda boot camp is a free event that I led it last spring. We literally had the best time, and I'm leading it again in 10 days. So it starts on Monday, January 14th. I'm going to post the link to the boot camp when this video is posted, so you can click on the link and check it out. It's also at the very top of the Ayurveda Everyday with Talia Facebook page. If you click on the banner at the top, you'll see the link that takes you to where you can learn more about it and sign up. But I'm mentioning it because, hey, Michelle, I'm mentioning it because in the 5-day Nourish Your Body with Ayurveda bootcamp, which is totally free, I actually teach you a process for figuring out your constitution without needing to have a practitioner read your pulse. Now, if you still are stumped after doing a process like the one I'm going to teach you, or after taking multiple tests online, then I do recommend that you see a practitioner, and you can work with practitioners long distance like myself. I love working with each and every one of you. I love it. It's so much fun, and it's such a beautiful sister connection. But you are stumped for a reason. If you're not able to figure it out on your own, you are stumped for a reason. Your pulse is probably more complex than you're able to figure out on your own because you have not studied Ayurveda for years and you're not an expert in it. So I recommend seeing somebody who's an expert who can help you navigate through that, just that initial terrain of like, what's your dosha? So you can be clear and then be using Ayurveda specifically for your body. Ayurveda is meant to be practiced so individualized. So anyway, so know your dosha. Number 2 is, picking 1 or 2 really core practices that are going to move you in the direction you want to go for your health and your well-being. So this is where we start to look at hot, cold, wet, dry, light, and heavy. If you can identify your symptom inside of that paradigm of like, well, what does this symptom feel like? What is it telling me? So let me give you an example. Psoriasis is a skin disorder, but it's a rash. It's itchy, it's angry, it's red, it's welty. It shows me that it is fire. And it's fire in the skin, which is a place that fire doesn't really belong. So I can look at that and be like, okay, psoriasis is fire. So what does that mean for my body? It can mean 2 things. Now, I run super cold. If you notice, I'm almost always wearing a jacket or a sweatshirt when I do these Facebook Lives, whether I'm outside or inside. Although teaching does warm me up and make me hot. But because I run so cold and because psoriasis was fire in my skin, which is where fire doesn't belong. It belongs in your digestive system. It belongs in your spirit. It belongs in your discipline, your ambition, your passion, but not in your skin. It wasn't enough for me to just be like, oh, I have a hot symptom. I better cool it down. I needed to actually meet the fire because my body was so cold that I wasn't able to circulate fire. So my very first remedy, and this is what changed my life, was adding spices to my meals. And I'm being just completely literal. Like when I sit down with a bowl of food, I am putting like half a teaspoon to a full teaspoon of digestive spices on that meal. Now, if you're watching this video and you're like, I don't know if I'm hot or cold, how do I know what spices to use? There are spices that are just digestive regulators. So they're not too hot, they're not too cold, but they're active. And no matter what, they're going to help you digest your food better. They're going to help your blood circulate better. They're going to just help your overall circulation and flow. So you're almost always on the right track when you just start adding those digestive regulators. So digestive regulators are like fennel seed, coriander seed, which you can have ground or as a whole seed. When I roast vegetables, like say parsnips with red onion, garlic, ginger, and carrots or beets, I love to roast my vegetables with a whole seed like coriander seed. Or cumin seed is another digestive regulator that I might throw onto a cookie sheet filled with roasted vegetables. But if I'm sitting down, like I said, with a bowl of food, I mean, I could also just put like a teaspoon of those seeds on my food and be like, wow, I just completely transformed this meal. And no matter what my dosha is, no matter what my imbalance is, these spices are going to help my body break this meal down and have more energy on the other side of my meal, which means less bloating, less fatigue, less gas, and more energy. So, just one little tweak. Now for me, because I'm Vata Kapha, yeah, give me some more likes and hearts. Come on, it's weird doing these Facebook Lives in case you have never done one. You're like, I'm really just talking this little thing, being like, I know you're there and I'm so happy you're there, but it's also definitely a game of faith, of trusting that you're there and that I'm, communicating with you in a way that you're receiving it well. So thank you for the likes and the hearts. So those digestive regulating spices, just that one little tweak can make a huge difference. For Vata Kapha, sorry, lost my train of thought for a sec. for Vata Kapha, like my dosha, which is cold and cool or dry and wet, there's no fire in my dosha, my constitution. I was also adding spices like cardamom, coriander, ginger on everything. And I'll tell you, to this day, 17 plus years later, that is exactly what I continue to do on my food. Is every meal I put spices on everything, even when I'm eating dessert, even when I'm having one of my favorite desserts is this goat milk ice cream called La Luz. If you've never seen it, I don't know if it's available anywhere outside of California or not. I know you can mail order it, but it's like $20 to ship it. But it's this goat milk ice cream that's so easy to digest, and I'm just in love with it. And one of the things that I do, this is going to sound weird, is I take a coconut yogurt, like a probiotic coconut yogurt, and I kind of have a bite of each on my spoon, and then I've got ginger, cinnamon, cardamom, clove. If I'm really in the mood, sometimes I'll even do a little bit of black pepper, because it's still this yummy, fun dessert, but because it's frozen and I'm already cold, the spices help to warm it up and help me break it down, help me digest it, help me feel just as good after I ate it as I did before, which I think is part of Ayurvedic eating and Ayurvedic nutrition in general. Is food is meant to give you energy. Food is meant to source what you're all about. And if you have less energy after you eat, that's a sure sign that you're not digesting your food. And so Ayurveda is all about you, really having your energy be high from your food. And I have to say, I feel like that's not talked about in so many other systems. And it's like of the utmost importance. In fact, I would even call it spiritual. I think of that as like a spiritual thing, because if you're fueled for your purpose and for what you're here to do and what you're here to share, and you want to be at the top of your game when you're doing that. So what you eat really matters. And so if you join my boot camp that starts on January 14th, we are going to really dive into that aspect, as well as figuring out your dosha, and I lead you through that process. I lead you through some processes also about learning and figuring out how to nourish your body with Ayurveda, especially once you know your dosha or have a really good sense of it. So, and then another thing that I just want to share that can be such a game changer, it's speaking of spices, is having herbal tea throughout your day that matches up with where you're at and what you need. So I know a lot of you that follow me are Pitta predominant, and you run really hot. And if you're in menopause or you're postmenopausal, you might be even hotter than you used to be. And so for you, you can still use all these digestive regulators: cumin seed, fennel seed, coriander seed. In fact, those three together are a tea that we called CCFT, or coriander, cumin, fennel seed tea in Ayurveda. I'm pretty sure I've already posted that recipe in the files section of our group if anybody wants to look and see if it's there. I will look when the video's over and post it if it isn't there. But that's such an easy tea to brew. You can literally just pour hot water over it, let it steep and strain it, drink it. You can also put the seeds in a blender, add the hot water, blend it for 20 seconds or less, and then strain it and drink it that way. It's a lot stronger that way. So if that's kind of too much emphasis on the taste of the spice, then I would just pour hot water over it, steep it, and then strain it. But drinking something like that throughout the day, between meals, even with a meal, because it moistens your food, which can help you break down your food if you run dry. That can also be such a game changer. So, this is Ayurveda for beginners. This is how you get started, is just kind of orienting yourself to like what Ayurveda is all about. It's about getting you in touch with who you are at your core, nurturing you at your core, meeting you where you are. And yeah, Maria, I love that CCFT. It's so good. Um, and then just applying these little baby steps, remedies, I call them remedies, that totally transform your health, your digestion, your lymphatic system, your immunity, your mood, your weight. You know, everything about you can be enhanced and improved by applying these little Ayurvedic tweaks to your life. So it doesn't have to be a complete lifestyle shift all at once. It can become that over time. So I really hope that you'll join my Nourish Your Body with Ayurveda bootcamp if you haven't already signed up. I'm telling you, it is so, so, so fun. I love it so much. So I'm just so excited to lead it again. So that kicks off on Monday, January 14th. I'll put the link underneath this video. Please comment if you have any questions, anything else to share. I love seeing what you all have to bring to the table. And yeah, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you can join my boot camp too. Anybody can join it from anywhere in the world. But if you want to be in on this rad community that we have going on in Ayurveda Every Day with Talia, that is on Facebook, and you can join anytime. So is winter a Vata season, a Kapha season, or both? What a great question. Amy, it's a Kapha season. So there's really quite a big shift at this time of year, because summer and fall, you know, there was all this kind of expression of, you know, like, yeah, we've been, you know, we spend the winter dreaming and planting seeds, like kind of silent seeds of just like, what do I need? What's really in my heart? What's next for me? But we're not creating it yet. We're dreaming it. We're planning it. Then in spring, we start to water those seeds and watch them sprout and watch them grow and cultivate the garden of what we decide we're going to plant from this really great place of rest. Hi, Indra. And then summer and fall, I mean, you are just like running with it. And so there's a lot of output in summer and fall, where the way that we nourish ourselves is to really nourish all that fire that's getting expressed, and then the dryness that comes in fall. So it's really quite a big transition when we move into winter, which is Kapha. It's going from the driest season to the dampest season. And somebody like, I mean, I use myself as an example a lot just to give you an example of the doshas in action. Indra, my friend Indra, who's watching, she's the same dosha as I am, so this is true for her too. You know, we're Vata Kapha. So, hi, Katie. I want to talk to you. So for us, you know, we can be like, oh my God, I'm so dry in the fall. And then suddenly when winter comes, we're like, oh my God, I'm so like sticky and mucousy and congested and damp. Like the turn to having more Kapha symptoms be up for us can be really dramatic. I know one thing I always say is like, eggnog is my favorite food. Definitely like top 5, not my favorite food, but top 5. And I can guzzle eggnog like you cannot believe throughout the fall, because it's wet and it's moist and it's so nourishing for my dry vata. Plus it's spiced, and I almost always warm it up. Like I make it appropriate for my dosha. But once winter hits, I can't really do that so much. I mean, if I'm really dry still, then I can. Or if I'm in an environment like a lot of you are on the East Coast or in the Midwest, where it's way colder than where I live in Santa Cruz, in California on the coast. So you might be in like more heated conditions, meaning the heaters are running and air conditioners are running and all that artificial air is drying you out. But really, kapha is still underneath it all. And even when you've got that artificial air coming in, your body will still produce mucus as a way to protect you from getting too dry, because it is sensing the weather outside. It is sensing the seasonal shift and being like, oh, this is a time to insulate. This is a time to rest and go inward. The days are so short. Night is so long. You know, your body knows that. Even if you're inside all the time, your body still knows it. It has its own wisdom, its own circadian rhythms, its own alignment with the natural rhythms of nature and the seasons. And it's always attuning to that. Even when I go on vacation to Hawaii in winter, it's still winter, even though I'm going to Hawaii. So, you know, it's a dance. It's always a dance, but winter and spring are definitely where we're working more with kapha. And so, you know, at this time, that's why I'm doing the boot camp now in January, because it's like, this is such an awesome time to get Ayurveda into your bones if it isn't there already. It's also, you know, most cleanses, I'm probably best known whatever in the world for my Ayurvedic cleanse programs. And by this time next year, I will have a cleanse for every single season. I've always led spring and fall cleanses, and the past several years I've also led one in the summer and in the winter. I have a brand new program that I'm offering this winter. So my winter cleanse won't happen until 2020, but you know, most cleanses in Ayurveda are done at the springtime and the fall, because those seasonal junctions are kind of the most natural time for your body to make a shift. But if you do want to do a cleanse in winter, you know, just keep it really warm and keep it short. Like, it could even just be one day or 2 or 3 days of drinking lots of broths with plenty of ginger, garlic, leek, shallot, onion, cayenne pepper, you know, pungent roots like celery root or parsnip or rutabaga, just to kind of give your body a reset, especially if you're having a hard time with the transition from fall to winter. You might just want to kind of be like, let me just back off, give my digestion a really big break, and focus mostly on soups and broths and teas. So another great tea for this time of year is chamomile tea, because it's so flushing for the kidneys and the bladder. But I'm going off on too much of a tangent, and I'm talking about a whole other topic now, which I will cover in a future Facebook Live. But I want to keep us contained for today. So I hope you got a lot out of today's message. Ayurveda for Beginners. I hope this gives you a really good place to start. And one more thing, last thing is, you can always grab my free Ayurveda Starters Guide. It's on the homepage of my website, and I just updated it. So even if you've downloaded it in the past, download it again. I just went through, I actually spent my entire New Year's Day. It was so awesome. I just was like drinking tea and eating yummy food and updating the Ayurveda Starters Guide. I made it so much more awesome. So if you've already downloaded it, download it again. I'll put the link here, but it's talyaskitchen.com. It's right on the homepage. You can't miss it. So download that too. Okay, I will see you next time, and hopefully I will for sure see you in the boot camp that starts on January 14th, and I'll post that link everywhere that this video is posted. All right, take care. See you soon.